You're watching and listening to Conscious Evolution Media, shifting global consciousness at consciousevolutionmedia.com.
Provides a feeding program, medical care, and educational services to over 1,300 young people each day. Please help our youth and place your donation. Go to www.kidstalk.org.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show on Real Coaching Radio Network. How would you like to attempt to demystify with us the realms of the mind, body, and soul to bring you a more holistic and balanced way of living? Healthier in all realms of the psyche, the spirit, and the body. Here is your host and executive producer, Coach Steve Todd.
Welcome everybody to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show on this absolutely beautiful Thursday afternoon. The sun is out, 60 degrees in Denver, Colorado. And of course, I'm your host, Coach Steve Toad, the founder of Conscious Evolution Media. And I also would like to introduce our guest, Dr. Joe Rubino. He's an author, a personal development trainer, a success coach, and an ex-dentist. We'll talk about that later. And he's joining us from one of my favorite places, Massachusetts. So welcome to the show, Dr. Joe.
Thank you, Coach Steve. It's great to be with you again.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. And the way I've been starting my show for the last 9 years will be no different than the way I do it today. And here's how it goes. So if I took all these titles away that I just mentioned about you and all other titles that has anybody ever called you, what's left? Who is really Dr. Joe Rubino?
Well, I would say that I'm someone enjoying the process of life. And it wasn't always that way, of course, but I've learned to embrace the challenges that life sends our way and know that every day has a gift that is awaiting us to discover. And so that's really who I am, just like everyone else at the core. And my goal and life purpose is to be an inspiration to both myself and to others. So that's what I live for.
Fantastic. And it comes across so clear that I really get it. I mean, you're being it, Doc. And that's what's beautiful about all this work that we are all doing, is that we have to walk the talk. If we don't walk the talk, for some reason, I think you know why, we don't come across authentically, do we?
No, it's about lining up who you are with what you say and what you do, and that's when we can best relate to others, when we are vulnerable and transparent. So I think that's what it's all about. Absolutely.
Well, that's fantastic. I actually do a cable TV show called Living Consciously, and I would love to invite you to it. It's like we've been on the air for less than 4 minutes, and I already know you are a perfect candidate to be a guest on the Living Consciously cable TV show. Why? Because I feel that I really connect to myself, and I connect to you. And I feel that you're an awake and you are a conscious human being, magnificent human being, I might say, who is on the journey. And those are the qualifications to be on the cable TV show, because right now you and I are speaking, interacting on the cable TV show. There are 5 people. And you know as well as I know, once there's more than 2, everything changes.
Well, it sounds like a great place to be, and I'd be honored.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's talk about one of your favorite subjects, although you have written many books, but I think one of your favorite subjects is self-esteem. Am I correct?
Yes, it is. It's to my understanding, it's the #1 ingredient essential for success and happiness in life. So I think it's of ultra importance.
I agree. So what gets into what's in the way of people having self-esteem and able to generate themselves like the way you and I do?
Well, I think that when high self-esteem individuals have 5 key areas that comprise this area. The first is personal power. That's our ability to say something and have other people listen and appreciate what we have to say, and we're personally powerful when we can influence others. Significance is another component. Significance is when we have the attention and the affection of other people, when we feel like we matter to them and they matter to us. Virtue, when we feel good about who we are morally, so we're not ashamed of the person that we are. We have high self-esteem. When we think that other people, if they got to really know who we are, then they wouldn't like us, then we're lacking in that area. And then the other two areas are virtue, which is not only feeling good about ourselves morally, and competence, which is being able to produce a result with velocity, but also having an appreciation for what it's like in the other person's world. So not just ego-driven people, but people who live by the golden rule and do unto others as they would have them respond in kind. So that's a critical component because many people confuse high self-esteem with high ego.
Fantastic. Well, that's well said. So in terms of having personal power and for people's ability to create and manifest anything they want, do you think the ingredients are the same, or do you need to add a few more? We're making a soup.
Well, when we're confident, we can take our ideas and we can manifest them into the world. We know that we're personally powerful because we can turn our dreams into reality. And the thing that separates people who are frustrated and who are angry or cynical or sad or afraid is that they lack that ability to take their ideas and know that with certainty they can produce a positive manifestation in their lives. They can have a realization of their expectations so that what they want, they just know that they, through their coaches, through putting into place a step-by-step visualization and creating goals that align with that vision and then taking action that supports the goals, they can manifest whatever they want. And when you have that belief that life is good and that you can produce those things that make life worthwhile, rich relationships and abundance and just loving interaction with people and having fun and pursuing your passions and living your life purpose, then life is worth living. It's not something you have to struggle and survive, but it's something you can embrace on a daily basis and can't wait for the next 300 years to unfold.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'd like to just add to that, just a different way, from a different place to look at it, just for the benefit of our viewers. So there's like a simple formula that I've used for myself and a lot of people I've coached and still coach. So here it goes. So when we see the world the way we see the world, because human beings are visual human beings, that's the reason why I do internet TV and I don't do radio. Not because radio is bad, but it's missing a very important component, which is visual. Mm-hmm. I want to look at you in the eye right now, Doc, when I'm speaking to you, and I know you want to do the same, because the eye is what? It's the door to the soul.
Right.
Yeah. And you can't do that on radio.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
So we see the way we see the world. Matter of fact, you even mentioned dreams. We even visual in our dreams, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So we see the world the way we see the world, which includes all of our beliefs and all of our worldviews, as I say it. And then we let our feelings come up. Now, the issue with feelings is that most human beings resist their feelings, right? Mm-hmm. So we see the world, we're having an experience, and then we have feelings. Now, these are the two things that are input to the mind, right? So now we jump to the output. And so based on what we see and what we feel, we're going to say something. Stuff is going to come out of our mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And then based on what we say, what we feel, and what we see, we're going to do something. So the saying and the doing is the output. Now, what I find is when all these four things, the two inputs, the two outputs, are completely congruent with who we are, as a human being, and we know who we are, and we know what our passion is, you just got the key for unlimited power. What do you think?
I think it makes perfect sense. And the opposite
Yeah,
is true
absolutely.
too. When we allow our feelings to be misdirected by misinterpretations that are run by our reactive nature, if we're addicted to anger or to fear or to sadness, then we sabotage our energy, we kill our charisma, and what comes out is something that keeps people away. So if we want to attract people to us, who are we being?
Yes.
Is the energy that we're putting forth conducive to that, or is it something that keeps people away from us? So,
Yes, I agree. And it's not
place
only, this is not only true externally, Doc, it's also true internally. So when everything is aligned, we actually have the ability, because we are a pharmacy, we don't need external pharmacists. If all these things are aligned, we recreate ourselves,
Yes.
all of our organs and everything else. When they are not connected, so I'm sure you met people like this, because I meet them too. When I meet people that they see the world the way they see the world, they don't allow their feelings to come up. They resist it. They will say something, and then they will do something. And what ends up happening is what they do is completely different from what they said, what they felt, and what they saw. So everything is disconnected,
Yes.
and their bodies and everything within their bodies are beginning to degenerate.
Yes. Well, I
And
believe very
get
strongly
ill.
that all physical illness is an external manifestation of an internal condition. And like you say, when we're in harmony with our spirits, our higher selves, who we really are energetically, then it comes forth and life works and we relate to others and they're attracted to us. And when we don't, then the opposite happens.
Yes, and I just wanted to say that we also have to be attracted to ourselves.
You're right.
Because until we get that done, nobody else will be.
Yeah, it's like being your own best friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So you created the center, which I actually love, the Center for Personal Reinvention. I just love that. So do you have some other people helping you there, or is this something you just head up by yourself?
Well, I am the head of the Center for Personal Reinvention. We have a support staff for, a lot of the day-to-day issues, but the training and the guidance comes from myself. It's since I reinvented myself about 22 years ago from being an extreme introvert, someone who didn't feel like I was contributing very much to the world, someone who was living out of obligations and shoulds, and someone who was not in touch with my own core values. I had to reinvent myself and find out what living authentically really meant in order to be able to teach others. So I was very much different than I am today as far as potential. If you spoke to me 22 years ago, you wouldn't recognize me.
I can say the same is true for me. So, wow, that's great. I actually gone to a lot of seminars in my years. I've been on this personal development train, which I have, in a way, gotten off like 10 years ago. But I'm back on in a way because, I'm doing this network. But I met lots of dentists that I shared seminars with. And it's kind of interesting. It just reminds me that their personalities were quite introvert, and they were actually boring. And and they openly admitted they were disgusted with their profession. It's kind of interesting that how many of us, and I was in technology and I was disgusted with my profession, but I did it because that's what provided the income and the security for my family. So it's interesting how we especially men sacrifice ultimately ourselves and our happiness temporarily, I must say, to pull the trigger on something that maybe it's in our DNA, and I don't know if that can be changed. I'm looking to you for an answer there. Because we have this thing, man has this thing that we have to be the provider, and we have to protect our families and make sure that the income is there to have the roof and the food every day. What do you think about that? Is that ever going to change?
Well, I think that line of thinking is faulty because it assumes that we are very limited dimensionally. We can only make a living, as I thought, by learning this profession called dentistry for me and implementing it. I was very successful in that profession. By society standards, we had a very large, thriving practice, made a lot of money, had a lot of patients, but was not fulfilling for me. And the lie was that I could not do anything else. I didn't have the ability to expect to be successful elsewhere in a different arena that fueled my passion and something that I would love to do, which was the lie. So whenever people like us find ourselves stuck in suffering, the suffering is always optional because it means that we're buying into this falsehood that we have to stay here. You know, we can always be in choice. We can always, if we believe in ourselves, and this is where the self-esteem comes in, if we believe in ourselves, we always have the ability to manifest our dream lives. We know that we will do whatever it takes, and we have that innate ability to be happy, be fulfilled, have rich relationships, be abundant in any arena that fuels our passions if we believe in ourselves. And if we don't, we get to be right about that too.
Yeah, absolutely, right on. So what would you suggest, especially to we in a number of networks that have a profile of a lot of the young people, like I'm interested in making a difference for youngsters that are teenagers and in the early 20s, because I feel that the earlier you start on this path, the better off you are. So, you know, I started early on the path, but I made the error in thinking that I stayed in the path for 30 plus years because I don't know why, because that was my journey. But it doesn't have to. Transformation, for example, because one of the things I know that you agree with is that this whole thing about self-esteem and knowing who we are requires being open and requires that we transform something. We transform our beliefs, or we transform who we are, or we transform, you know, I call them the core issues that we created when we were little.
Yes.
We made some decisions early on in life that was, you know, an error in thinking, because whatever happened, it just happened in time and space, and it was only true for that moment, but we took it and expanded it to our entire life. And people go on, although my own personal example, I've gone on for many, many years living from a perspective that I thought was true. Later on, I found out it wasn't true at all. So what would you recommend? Because I also feel that, you know, talking to, you know, 13,000 people in 9 years doing this, it feels to me that human beings have a couple of options. One is get transformed through force of nature, meaning you either get a 2x4 applied to your head in forms of getting into an accident, having your life at stake, get a divorce, you know, lose a close loved one, you know, lose your job, whatever. These major things in our lives happens to drive us inside, or at least start asking questions, right? So that's one option. What do you think? What do you feel the other option is?
Well, I've been asking myself that for 22 years. And as a result of that inquiry, I've actually created a program called High Self-Esteem Kids that supports kids so that they won't have to grow up like we did, perhaps, with all of these misconceptions, misinterpretations, false assumptions that don't support us, that require later reinvention because life isn't working the way it should. It's not fulfilling. It's not rewarding. We're not actualized. We're not having fun. We're not being the best we can be. But what if we could impact kids' lives so that they didn't have to grow up with all of those false beliefs that they formed early on in life, so that by the time they're 30 or 40 or 60 years old, they're still living out opinions and misconceptions that they made up when they were 2, 3, 4, or 5 years old. We have the ability to get kids at an early age to empower them, where they can empower their lives, where they could develop. I've identified 31 key areas or distinctions, foundational principles that we can actually teach kids. And what we've done is we've created a legion of light bearers, people who want to learn these principles, who are now going out into the world and teaching literally hundreds of thousands of kids and adults so that they can teach more kids through a program that I've created, so that kids can be empowered early on. They can be visionaries. They can embrace problems as opposed to being afraid of them. They can develop high self-esteem early on. They can know that their behavior when they make mistakes isn't something that's going to scar them for life. They can clean up their mistakes. They can apologize. They can learn from them. They can embrace the gifts that the mistakes gave them. They can move forward in a way that supports them with greater empathy and wisdom. So the way I see it, Steve, is that it's possible to support people and kids earlier on in life. You know, where would we be if we learned the principles that we now know in midlife when we were 10 or 12 or 15 years old? We would have had many less years of hard knocks.
I would have been divorced twice. I wouldn't have had to deal with a couple of addictions.
Well, we all would have taken different paths, perhaps.
So, wow, let's get this into public schools, Doc.
Well, that's my dream. My vision is to raise the consciousness of the world, and I'm absolutely convinced that when we have enough adults teaching these principles, we won't have a culture that's based in violence as we do now, a culture that is so angry that we have to worry about kids shooting up each other in schools. We have to worry about, the next building being blown up through a terrorist attack. We don't have to worry about all of these people trying to act out their frustrations when we can act instead from love. We can act from mutuality and know that whatever we put out into the world comes back to us tenfold. So if we are vengeance driven, if we want to get others back, that can only ruin our lives. That can only kill us physically, mentally, spiritually. And look at the world, the shape that it's in today. It's a result of a broken paradigm. I
try not to, Doc. I created my own world and my own bubble because I don't want to look out there.
It's not a pretty picture, is it?
No, it's not.
Well, we can change that.
Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah, we can change it one person at a time.
Yes.
I certainly do believe that. Well, that's fantastic. So, oh my God, you're completely up to the same stuff we're up to.
It's exciting. When you realize the potential that we all have within us, it's just a shame to live in resignation like I lived for so many years. I was so resigned that I used to take my continuing education classes through the mail because I was petrified to go in socially and be with other people, thinking that I had nothing to contribute to other people. And when I realized that that was the lie that I was living for the first 37 years of my life from, everything shifted like flipping a switch, because when your paradigm shifts, then everything starts at zero again. You see things
it's a different
differently,
world.
And it's the same for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I created a completely different world because I realized that it's up to me who's in my world.
Yes.
I get to create my world any way I want. So if I don't want to play what's out there, I don't have to.
No.
But
you have to give up the right to be a victim.
Yeah.
You can't be a victim and be empowered at the same time. You have to take responsibility for what shows up around you as I see it. Not like it's blame or fault, but like who am I being that this is showing up in my life? And if you want something different to show up, I believe very strongly that if we're different, our reality becomes different. And that's very empowering. That's very much a message of hope, because no one has to live in that resignation and that apathetic mode that so many of us, including myself, once lived in.
Yeah, I feel that it also has to do with people realizing that what you and I are talking about, or been talking about for the last almost half hour, is an inside job. It's not about going out there in the world and finding another shiny object to see if we pick that up, that's going to change our lives. There are no shiny objects out there that's gonna change our lives by itself. The only way to change our lives is going in here, going into our hearts, and willing to look what's in there.
Yeah, when you think of how many people think that their lives will be great when some significant event happens, when they get married, when they get divorced, when they finish school, when they drop out of school, something has to happen for their life to be happy. And so they forfeit their ability to manifest happiness daily and manifest a life where they enjoy the process, which is really what success is all about. It's not about achieving some great goal in the future. It's about falling in love with the process daily and knowing that you're on the path, as I see it.
Yeah, it's not about, there's no destination.
No.
All there is the journey.
Yes.
Well, I love what you do, and believe it or not, the half hour is gone. So I want to give you the opportunity, Doc, to tell people about your website. How do you want to be connected? Not only people that are on the live broadcast right now, but this is going to be archived, and people will be watching it for sure. So,
well, if people would like to become part of our Legions of Light Bearers and impact kids' lives, they can go to www.high-self-esteemkids.com, H-I-G-H, self-esteemkids.com. And if you'd like to learn the same principles that I've impacted my life with and are now teaching others, you can go to www.lifeoptimizationcoaching.com and learn those principles again, with the impact of using them on your family, with your friends, or going out and becoming someone who can go out and teach others in the world.
Fantastic. Dr. Joe, thank you for who you are being, and thank you for doing the work that you're doing. I know that you are changing lives every day, including your own, just like I do. So it's been an absolute delight having you on the network, and hopefully we'll cross paths very soon.
I will look forward to it, and thank you for the impact work that you're doing as well, Coach Steve. Appreciate
you so
and
much.
Thank you to all of our viewers.
Yeah, thank you, Doc. We'll be in touch.
Great. Bye now.
You're watching and listening to Conscious Evolution Media, shifting global consciousness at consciousevolutionmedia.com.